So I have a question for you. Have you thought about what retirement looks like and specifically the process it's going to take to get there? I'm not just talking about the few years leading up to retirement, or certainly what we all think and dream for someday, which is to be able to relax, kick our feet up, go to the beach, travel the world, do some hobbies that we don't have time for now, or even simply just being able to walk into our boss's office and say, thanks, but I'm out of here. But what does it take to actually be able to accomplish that? And have you ever wondered where you should be at whatever your age is today and different benchmarks along the way? Well, today in this video, we're going to talk about that. And I'm excited to kind of walk through what I would tell you to look for as you hit the different milestones from your 20s through your 60s and on up. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So stick around. I hope you enjoy this and let's learn something together. Hey guys, it's Tim. Welcome back to my channel. Before we get into the video content, I want to ask you to do me a favor. If you've not already subscribed to this channel, I'd appreciate it if you would do that. It's going to notify you when I make new videos, and it's also going to help me really launch this thing. I really want it to be a resource to help you and to be able to talk about topics that it's on your mind, that you're curious about, and the only way to do that is really to build our subscriber base and to get the conversation going amongst many, many people. So I'd appreciate you doing that. Also, like this video if you enjoy this content, share it with a friend, and I'm looking forward to continuing to produce great content to really talk about your personal finance topics and the idea of retirement and how to get you to that next step. As I said, today we're going to talk about what retirement looks like at different levels. And there's a concept that I want to start with. It's called the time value of money. Money that you currently own today is more valuable than that same amount of money at a future time and a future date. And the reason why that is because of the potential growth that those dollars can produce if you have them today. That's like you'll see lottery winners or winners of game shows be given an option to take the lump sum payout, which is smaller, or payments over the course of 10, 20, even 30 years. And a lot of times they will take the lump sum payment, even though that's a smaller amount than they would have gotten if they would have gotten those payments. That's because the time value of that money is actually worth more having it today and investing it and doing the right things. Now, unfortunately, lottery winners are some of the worst when it comes to discipline, and many of them wind up broke just a few years after winning the lottery. But if they were to grasp this concept, and that's important for investing for the future in retirement, this is something that's really important. So just remember that the current value of your money today is worth more because of the potential growth than that same amount in a future date. So what does it look like to have your retirement started at different points along the way? Now, something else I want to mention is that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can get started today. It's the best time. You need to get this ball rolling. You need to see that snowball roll downhill and pick up more snow and more snow and more snow as it grows. That is the power of compounding interest. So wherever you're at, get started, talk with a qualified financial advisor, and get on a path today. Okay, so if you're in your 20s, let's just start there. 20s, I would define as a decade of planning and just starting. Things look great. You've got your entire adult life and career ahead of you. Hopefully you are really excited and have a lot of energy about the career field you've chosen for yourself and looking forward to building a life for yourself. And really your 20s is a time to try things and dream and make mistakes. You know, the amount of commitment that you have in your life and responsibilities are probably the least of any time moving forward. If you are fortunate enough and disciplined enough to start your retirement in your 20s, which would be amazing because, again, of that time value of money, it's a pretty simple and straightforward approach. You just want to start, and you want to start with something that works for your budget. Now, I'm going to talk in future videos about personal finance and getting out of debt and being responsible with your budget. So that has implications. So if you are, right out of college and have a ton of college student loan debt, and maybe you've bought your first car and have payments, or you've racked up some credit card debt trying to get your way through college and make it work, you really need to focus on that. Investing is important, but the most important thing that you can do is clean up your budget and create more and more margin, more and more space for you to be able to save. In addition to that, or after that step, depending on where you're at, you should start saving for retirement. And it's pretty simple. You have a very long, more than likely, very long time horizon for when you're actually going to tap into this money. It's probably going to be for, on average, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years until you need this money. That's a long time. And the history of the stock market, the history of all of our markets in the US over more than 20 years looks pretty good. So you can have a pretty big appetite for risk at that age. It depends on your situation, but more than likely, your best bet is going to be heavy in equities, and equities are stocks. So especially right now, the way interest rates are, there's not a whole lot of attractive qualities about bonds compared to in decades past when it could be a really good balancing aspect of your portfolio. You're in your 20s, you probably just need to be in low-cost index funds that mirror the S&P 500, that achieve growth. You're looking for growth right now. So if you're in your 20s, you need to plan for your future, plan to get out of debt, plan to live on a budget, and then create room in that plan to start investing. Now let's move on to our 30s. I can identify with this because this is where I'm at right now. I'm in my late 30s. 30s is a time to perfect your plan and to work your plan. That probably sounds kind of cliche, but I think it's really important because our 20s, hopefully we've planned, but maybe we've also, tried some stuff, just had fun, risked some things. And now our 30s is a time to kind of perfect that. Okay, we've learned some things. We've learned maybe what we don't want to do. We've learned maybe where we do want to live, where we don't want to live, what kind of family we want to have, where we want to settle down. This is very typical of our 30s to really settle into this mode of thinking. So I really want you to look at the plan that you've started to create. Hopefully you've already had the opportunity to start saving for retirement, but if not, hey, it's still a great time to start in your 30s. You still have all kinds of runway between now and when you retire. Look at your plan, perfect your plan, optimize your plan if you can, cut out things that you've learned maybe I don't need, maybe they aren't as important as they used to be, really prioritize the things that are important, and then just work it. This is the grind of your budget, putting money every month into your investments, into your IRAs, into your 401ks. Now, in this decade, very likely your income is going to grow pretty decently if you're in a good career field and good career track. When you're 30s, you've got some experience. You're not just some punk kid in your 20s. They're hopefully, going to give you a decent salary and see that salary rise as you add more and more value and bring more and more wisdom to your position. So with the income growth, that creates more and more opportunities to set aside some of that for investing. So again, take advantage of what you can. I'm still going to suggest in your 30s, you should be heavy in equities. Again, because you have a long time horizon between when you're in your 30s and when you're going to retire. Now, you also need to, unless there's some short-term liquidity needs, like if you're buying your first-time home, you're going back to school to maybe get your master's or some other life event that you need to have some money set aside for more short-term expenses. The majority of your nest egg, I'm going to continue to encourage you to be in the market, to be in low-cost index funds. They're going to be your best bet because you're thinking about your long-term future and growth potential. All right, so now we've made it into our 40s, and things are hopefully looking good for us at our jobs and steady at this point. Our kids are getting older. We're really getting settled in with this plan. The 40s are a time to maybe tweak your plan to match life events that are happening. So it depends on what's going on. So maybe a lot of people in their 40s tend to have one of their last career change shifts. So maybe you want to, again, go back to school, try something new, get a new accreditation or some more training to specialize in your field, or maybe you even want to try a different career field. Sometimes you might need to look at your portfolio and say, there's some maybe small turbulence coming up. So maybe we talk with my advisor and figure out some ways to optimize for that. But you still need a good chunk of that, and your focus being on, I'm going to retire in 20 or 30 years from now. Still a long time, but, it's closer than it was when I was in my 20s. So let's keep the gas going on retirement savings. Again, I'm going to suggest that you primarily focus on equities with some short-term servicing of liquidity needs. So maybe you had kids a little bit younger, and now those kids are getting ready to go into college. And so you need to have been saving for college at this time, and now you're going to start drawing down from that as you help pay for their school. Or maybe you have some parents that are getting older and you need to help them out with some of their needs. So you need some money on the side for that. There's all kinds of life events that start to happen around this decade. But the also wonderful thing about this is you are approaching, on average, your peak earnings years. So kind of 40s to 50s is when most people are making the most amount of money on an annual basis that they're going to make in their careers. So hopefully things are going well for you and you have some margin to be able to focus on that. Now, if you haven't started and you're in your 40s, don't freak out. It's okay. You haven't missed the boat. You may need to maybe start saving a little bit more aggressively, especially if you want to retire in your 60s, because that gives you, 20 to 25 years, which is a lot of time in the market to have some growth. But the older we get and the more we wait, we're just bringing on more potential risk short term. So maybe you need to catch up a little bit and go ahead and max out what you can contribute into your IRAs and in your 401ks, because you don't have the same amount of time as someone in their 20s or their 30s will have to build up that nest egg, but it's still possible. So get started. Don't wait. Talk to somebody today. Get this thing rolling. If you don't understand, find an advisor that's going to help teach you, that's going to give you information, not just tell you what to do. That's the key. So get started today. All right, we've made it to our 50s now. This is a time, again, we're looking at peak earnings for the average person. So maybe you're really feeling comfortable about the lifestyle that you have as a family. And this is really when you need to max out your investment opportunities, because hopefully you have the most amount of money. If you've really been disciplined and working a plan, hopefully your house is close to being paid off, if not all the way paid off. And you know what you can do with that money when you don't have a house payment? You can invest and you can build it and grow more wealth. So max out your opportunities when you're in your 50s. Aim for that paid off house like I mentioned. And I would consider, unless you're going to be retiring early, like if you have an IRA, you can start withdrawing at 59 and a half. That's a little early for a lot of people. So if you're not going to be retiring in your 50s, again, I would be invested in the market. You still got, not only between the age you are right now in your 50s and your retirement age, you have to think past that. So a lot of people think time horizon is just the difference between how old I am today and the age of my retirement. That's not time horizon. Time horizon is how long you need this money. Now, it's important to know at what age you're going to retire, because you're going to turn off the spigot, right? The funding of that account. So it's not going to grow anymore from principal. It's only going to grow and continue to grow from growth, interest upon interest. So you need to be aware of that, but your time horizon goes well into your 70s, 80s, and even 90s. Where people are living longer and longer these days, so we need to have more and more runway for our nest eggs to last us through retirement, so we don't get hit with an unexpected, we could maybe go 10, 15 years into retirement and then our money runs out. That's a really unfortunate position to be in. Let's not have that happen. Let's really think, I'm gonna live a long time, and plan for that. So 50s, kind of your peak. Let's max things out and let's really be focused. Now, if you're in your 50s and you haven't started saving for retirement yet, this is your wake-up call. Let's get on this. Let's start planning. Social Security, we can have that, but Social Security is not really supposed to be considered your only source of income. It's really best served as supplemental income. Don't bank on that as being your only source. Put money aside. Let's get going here. So if you're in your 50s, you need to start and you need to max everything you can. You need to try to build that up and talk with your advisor about what makes sense and when you want to retire. Maybe your retirement, maybe you can't retire at 65. Maybe you need to go to 70. That still gives you 20 years. Like I said earlier in my example, over any 20-year period in the market, it's experienced growth. So you can still take advantage. All right, so the last decade I want to talk about is your 60s. Now retirement isn't just like way off in the future. It's right in front of us. It's saying, okay, maybe you want to retire at 65, at 68, at 70. Whatever you can do, this is the time to start looking at your portfolio and saying, am I prepared to retire? Am I prepared to not see money going into those funds, but seeing distributions happening from those funds? And do I have enough? And did my plan work well enough that I can withdraw but not see my principal depleted? Because it's a whole system and strategy to try to get enough in your nest egg. Now, you can do it a couple different ways. You can either plan on between normal drawdowns and normal capital appreciation of your investments, that it's going to last you, again, that 20 or 30 years of retirement that we really need to plan for. But by the time you're 90 or 95, those funds will get drawn down to close to zero. That's one approach. That's a principal drawdown. Another approach, which is fantastic, and that's why we want to have a good mindset and get aggressive early, is where we can build up our portfolio to the size where we never have to touch the principal, and it continues to grow in perpetuity. So the key there is that you're invested right, that you're invested heavily enough when you're younger and you're participating in the growth of the market so that your drawdown rate never exhausts that principal. So you theoretically could be retired forever as long as you need to. The great thing about that as well is you have an inheritance that you can do whatever you want to. You can leave it as a legacy for your family. You can help people. You can donate it to charity. You can make a difference with what you've done. And so how cool is that to be able to think about those things? So our 60s, let's prepare to transition. Let's understand our risk tolerance. Like I said, if we're knocking on the door of retirement, our risk is going to look different than someone who's in their 40s who still has 20, 30 years to save here. Make those adjustments to your portfolio. Talk with your advisor about that. Understand your life expectancy. We don't like talking about it, but if you're someone that, maybe you have some medical issues and some things, and, hopefully you're going to enjoy a nice, healthy retirement, but based on your life expectancy and your family history that you need to have money prepared into your 70s or your 80s instead of 90s or 100. That all plays into this. So that's what a qualified professional can help you figure out and make a plan for. So know your risk tolerance, your life expectancy, and then your capital needs in relation to your portfolio size. So again, like I said, know how much you have in there and how much you plan to start drawing down in the next 5 to 10 years when you do retire, and then breathe, and you can feel hopefully very personally satisfied that you've worked a plan for this long, and now you get to reap those rewards and make a difference. Now, if you're in your 60s and you're saying, Tim, I think I'm in trouble. I don't have anything saved for retirement. I'm scared. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to stop working. First of all, it's okay. Breathe. Today is the best day to make a plan for the rest of your life. It's going to need to look different. It's going to need to be creative. You probably are going to work longer than maybe you originally would like to, or maybe some of your friends and neighbors are doing, but retirement is still possible. Maybe it looks like instead of working full-time, you can eventually start to scale it back, move more part-time, and you can move some things around. You can make some lifestyle decisions. Maybe you have a lot of equity built into your house, and that's your main source of net worth, but you think, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice this house, move into something that maybe is smaller. I don't need the space. It's easier to maintain, and I can take that equity and really start to help it fund some of my retirement since I hadn't been contributing. That might be an option. There are catch-up provisions that allow you to put more money into your IRAs in the last decade of your working career that lets you try to catch up a little bit if you've been late to the party. There are other ways. There are ways to get creative sources of revenue. There are all kinds of options there. So don't feel like if you're in your 60s and you don't really have anything that you're out of luck. Talk to somebody and figure out a plan. That's what it looks like going through the different decades and the mentality I want you to have when you think about where do I need to be at. So everything I just mentioned, kind of put yourself on that timeline and say, okay, am I in my 20s? Make sure I'm making a plan and I'm starting on that plan. I'm in my 30s. I really need to perfect that plan and I need to work my plan. My 40s, I need to tweak my plan based on what's happening, but I still need to work my plan. In your 50s, this is peak time, baby. This is maxing out opportunities. So get that house paid off, get any other debt you might have lingering around out of your life, and just get going on every opportunity that you can take. And in your 60s, start preparing for that transition, not only monetarily with your portfolio and your funds, but also mentally and spiritually. It's a big change. So get ready to celebrate how you've been blessed and how you've seen success based on being disciplined, diligent, and focused. So I hope that's encouraging for you. And I'm just thrilled to be able to help and to be able to lend a voice and to kind of share with you my experience so far in this journey. And I'm excited for the opportunities that we have to really build something and to be in a position where, retirement can look like leisure and can look like relaxing and not having to do anything, not having a boss. To me, retirement looks like not being obligated to do something based on the fact that I need the money. Doesn't mean I'm not going to work. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do what I've been gifted to do. It just means I have different motivations, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. So leave me a comment if you have a question, or maybe you want to push back on something I said, or have a different thought you want to bring into the conversation. I look forward to seeing that and hearing from you. And we're going to keep going, moving forward with more content and more videos related to retirement, personal finance. I'd love to hear what topics you're thinking about, what's front of mind for you. And I'll see you next week. Have a great week.